we look at Eredin's sword from The Witcher. This is the Kitsune clan, a group of sword enthusiasts who like cosplay, reenactment, and historical martial arts. If you have similar interests, feel welcomed. We had already a look at one sword from The Witcher Wild Hunt, Aerondight. A link to this video is provided in the description box. Today we want to look at another one, Eredin's sword. For Aerondight, we came to the point that we could recognize that this sword is very good for using techniques as they are shown in the Talhofer Fechtbücher. So, for example, you can nicely perform Mordsau with it because of the special pommel. Eredin's sword is different. It does not have a specialized pommel, but also here the hilt, but also the blade, seem to be special and not so usual compared to normal swords. If we look at the handle, we can see it's longer than that of Aerondight and it's easy to grasp it with two hands. The pommel is a bit small, could be larger, but that means we can really place two hands on the handle. That was difficult with the Aerondight sword. Furthermore, we have an elaborate type of hand protection. There's a crossguard and the front side of the crossguard is bent downwards to protect the hand. The rear side of the crossguard is bent upwards. Now you could think that is a good possibility to trap the blade of an opponent, but if we look at the blade of Eredin's sword, we can see that there's on the back side a little triangular protrusion, not so far away from the crossguard, and that in fact prohibits that a blade can slide into the crossguard, into this upward bent part of the crossguard. What you can do with this type of construction is you can place your right hand in front of the crossguard, like we know it from a Zweihänder or a Montante, or we also saw it with Aerondight, and your hand is then protected there to a certain degree. Definitely better than with the case of Aerondight. It's in fact really hard to hit the hand because also on the front side the blade has a kind of an indent and the fingers are in there, so if you are in bind and the other blade slides along Eredin's blade, it will slide over your fingers and usually not hurt them. Important, this only works if you grasp in front of the crossguard in thumb hold or thumb grip. Video specifically dealing with this grip is linked below. If you grasp there, you can have a really good lever. You can also nicely switch between half sword and normal hold, as we could just see, and so you have quite some possibilities. If you're not in half sword, if you have the left hand on the handle, gripping in front of the crossguard really gives you a lot of power, so the lever is to your advantage and you can easier manipulate the blade of the opponent. Concerning half sword, there's an additional advantage. If you look again at the blade, there's also a triangular indent closer to the tip. That's where you can place your left hand in half sword, and like with the blade shape further towards the crossguard, this will protect the hand a bit, and that's quite a thing because usually in half sword, the left hand, the one that grasps on the blade, is the vulnerable one. So Eredin's sword gives us some possibilities to grasp it in different ways, and so we can pursue different tactics. What is also nice is the sheer length of this weapon. It's a bit longer than Aerondight, or at least this cosplay version we have at hand here, also in the game. It's a rather long sword. And also the available cosplay and LARP versions we have seen are longer than the average type of these weapons. So if you're looking for something that is a bit longer than a normal one, this could be an interesting one for you. So there's something to love on this sword. Are there any downsides? Yeah, something that is a bit strange is the shape of the grip itself, because the diameter or the cross section, I need to say, is somehow diamond shaped, so it's not really round. You have 4 recognizable ridges, and that sometimes feels a bit strange. Also, it's on the thinner side, so if you are used to swords with more massive handles, this will be recognizable, definitely. So far, this is now the second Witcher sword that we look at, and it's clearly usable. You can have fun with it, playing around, and it's not like one of the two that we looked at would be superior to the other one. They both have their advantages. With Aerondight, the specialized pommel definitely is a thing. Here, it's nice to have the full length of the handle available, which was not the case with Aerondight due to the specialized pommel limiting the space for the left hand. It's also nice to have this somehow quirky looking but interesting hand protection with the crossguard and the additional specialized shape of the blade that gives us a bit of protection in half-sword. So you could argue that also here we have a certain Talhoferian advantage, meaning that in Talhofer these special swords have been depicted, but they are also in Fiore de Liberi's book. And these swords from The Witcher are somehow such specialized weapons that remind of that, as it's not so easy to get training weapons that go beyond the really more traditional sword types. These can clearly be interesting to train this aspect of having specialized sword for half sword and for Mordschlag. In the case of Eredin's sword, it's definitely nice in half sword, or to be more precise, it's nice to change from half sword to normal grip relatively fast and protected. As you see, it's really a fun thing to play around with these swords. Although they are not as soft as LARP swords, they're a bit harder definitely. You can play rather freely without any additional protective gear. So The Witcher seems to offer us a variety of different swords that are clearly fantasy swords, in the sense of we don't easily find a real historical counterpart. But other than many other fantasy swords, these are not so far off. The overall shape and balancing still makes a good sword, and the fantasy additions that have been put onto these swords are not over the top. They are not super awkward. In fact, they are interesting for real swordplay use or experimenting with it, reminding of some of the ideas that have been put forward in books like the Talhofer books. We will further explore swords from The Witcher in future videos, because with these first two having been tested, we see the indication that swords in this series have something special to it, differing from common fantasy swords. We hope we could inspire you, and see you around the next time.